Hello, this is Father Hightower, and welcome to Vox SFX, the voice of St. Francis Xavier Parish in Missoula, Montana. We are so pleased that you have joined us. Your participation enriches our entire community. We hope that our show serves as a point of light, helping to deepen our understanding and experience of the Catholic faith in history. So join us as we seek through prayer, study, interviews, and discussion the roots of the practice of our faith. God bless.
Luciano Lamonarca, also known as the Goodwill Tenor, is the head of the Padre Pio Foundation. Now, several weeks ago, St. Francis Xavier hosted some relics of Padre Pio and held a special Mass in honor of them. We had the great delight of being able to listen to Luciano sing during that Mass, a song that had never been performed in America before. Luciano's story is remarkable. From his humble beginnings in Italy to his rise as a star within the opera community, to the miracle that he witnessed due to the intercession of Padre Pio, and then his determination to be able to bring the wonder that is Padre Pio to the world. You'll hear in the man's voice that he has great respect for this particular saint. We are able to talk with Luciano today because of Father Pat, who you've heard on the show before. He met Luciano while he was still the chaplain for the United States Congress, and the two became fast friends. So we are thankful for that friendship because it means that we also get to enjoy Luciano and the relics of Padre Pio. So you'll hear us make several temporal references to the Mass that's coming up. That Mass has already happened, and he was here, like I said, several weeks ago when we were getting ready to host those relics. Having been in the presence of those relics since then, I can tell you that there is an aura, a kind of a mystical presence when you're there. I now have I believe, Class 3 relic hanging around my neck because I got my medal of St. Augustine blessed by the relics of Padre Pio, and I know many did. We had hundreds of people who passed through the church in those few days to venerate and to pray in the presence of this great man. But today, let's talk about Luciano, about his life, about how Padre Pio has touched him and his faith, and what the plans are for the future for this amazing man and this wonderful saint. With me in the studio today, we have a real treat, Luciano Lamonarca, who is the head of the Padre Pio Foundation and will be performing at the Padre Pio Mass tomorrow. Thank you so much for making some time to come on the show.
Good afternoon, Nicholas. It's a great privilege for me to be here with you.
So, you're here in Montana. What do you think so far of our beautiful state?
It has been a beautiful experience so far. I arrived yesterday afternoon. I am here with my family. This is my official trip to Montana. We have visited with the relics of St. Pio, the state of Montana once, but not with me. So for me, it's a real treat. It's definitely the first time the Dash of Helena. Therefore, it's a great experience. Just visit the National Ranch of the Bisons before set up everything's ready for the relics. I understand there was quite a few hundred people attending today, and having this first spiritual encounter with St. Pio could not be a better start.
Before we begin and start talking about Padre Pio a little bit, would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I am an Italian opera singer. I am a tenor. I was born in Italy. I came to this country when I was 29 years old in 2008. Long story short, it's a dramatic episode that happened in my wife's and my life. I got closer to St. Pio. I always been, when I was a kid, my mother used to bring us up to the sanctuary of Padre Pio and the Archangel Michael, which are just 60 miles north than my own town in the Puglia region of Italy. But then as you grow up, you mainly distance yourself from the truth and some facts of the church. For me, Padre Pio was always, going to the sanctuary. I thought I knew all about him, but I didn't. In 2010, when this episode happened, which means that our stillborn daughter, Alma, at the 6 months and a half pregnancy, we lost her. It was kind of, for me, going down the road, shaking the ground of my faith. I will say like this. And in 2011, on May 15, on the first anniversary of our wedding, I asked my wife to go back to our root. We visited San Giovanni Rotondo, which unfolded a series of steps I should have done for me to get in line and discover Padre Pio in the way that I did not know, which brought me to found the foundation on April 4, 2014. The original office was in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Then we still kept the phone number, but we are located in Westchester County, New York, which is just 45 minutes south and much closer to Manhattan. That's where we are now.
You had mentioned that you are an operatic tenor, and
Yes.
I believe that you're referred to as the goodwill tenor. Tell us a little bit about how you came to be an opera singer.
You know, when I came in this country, we singers, I guess, like all artists, are always called to support benefit causes. For reasons that are not known to me, in the sense that I was lucky enough, in 2008, one of my main first performances was in the General Assembly of the United Nations, where I was performing immediately after Oscar winner composer Ennio Morricone. And after that, a series of events unfold for me to be called to attend a series of events, whatever was UN agencies or charities, Catholic charities. I was always involved, and everybody, I was always requesting the same. And I thought myself that, it is interesting to see how arts can be used, which in America is some things more developed than in Italy. Art can be used really to voice, to provide personal support for the causes that are really closer to your hearts. And therefore, we counted, and it was just in 2016, I guess, that a friend of mine at PR told me, how many concerts did you do? 250, 270? You are a goodwill tenor. And then she labeled me, what do you mean? Well, you always are affiliated with the United Nations Agency because I've been performing and supporting the organization many years. And then that's how the nickname unfolded. And as so far, I have more than 350 performances in support of a variety of charitable causes, which it has closer to my heart. A good 20% of my performance still today, I devolve to benefit causes.
Well, I think it's good that people who are blessed with certain gifts are able to give back to the world and to our church in such a meaningful way.
I believe so, and I believe St. Augustine would say, who sings prays twice. So I strongly believe on that, the fact that, you can really make a bigger impact because you use your talent, in this case mine, to make a case or just to raise awareness of a cause that are closer to you. In this case, even to support the St. Pio Foundation.
So let's talk a little bit about the St. Pio Foundation. You had said that you had a very dramatic event in your life that brought you much closer to Padre Pio. What took you from there to founding this foundation?
Well, in other words, after my wife and I met, visited San Giovanni Rotondo, May 15, 2011, we met a Monsignor, which passed away just January this year, 97 years old. He is considered, until he died, one of the closest friends of St. Pio, Monsignor Pierino Galeone, as close as he was to Padre Pio, as he lived with St. Pio for 21 years. He also was miracled by St. Pio. He was one of the three witnesses who started the canonization process of St. Pio, and John Paul II invited him officially to celebrate Mass at Padre Pio's canonization in 2002. He kind of informed, he has a very great spiritual aura, and like Padre Pio, I guess, he anticipated that more challenges were coming to our family, but we were really blessed with one child. Today we are one child, didn't come one after Sebastian, and then told me that I was going to be a great advocate of St. Pio, although many challenges ahead of me were going to be seen. And then I will see if you are worth it to it. 2011, for me, America was only about being a singer. In 2013, I promoted a few events about St. Pio, like a few friars and former leadership of the hospital of the Padre Pio founded came to America. And I had a vision for St. Pio to do some things a little bit different, based on my experience I had with the big UN agencies or big American foundation. Something could have been done in a different way to promote Padre Pio legacy. I knew a cardinal and a bishop, and I asked their support, and I remember very well, they said, Luciano, you are a lay person, it's going to be very difficult. But to whatever degree we can help you, we will be here. And that was enough. And then in 2014, as I mentioned, April 4th, I took the stand of creating the St. Pio Foundation because I had the vision. At the beginning, it was all about performing and trying to raise awareness through concerts until the moment came in 2017 when we were entrusted with the first collection of relics of St. Pio that we brought in this country. And that's changed completely the scenario because we exposed the St. Pio Foundation to hundreds of thousands of people just in 2017.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
So you had mentioned bringing the relics of St. Pio to this nation. What sort of relics are we talking about? And which relics did we bring for St. Francis Xavier?
Well, from 2017 to 2025, we have been entrusted with 3 different sets of relics of St. Pio's, all first and second class relics. Now, currently, we own 2 sets of class of relics because those were donated finally in 2022 from the friars who were owning them. And in St. Francis, we are brought the domestic collection who travels, which comprises of 4 first-class relics and 1 second-class relics. Namely, there are handkerchief of St. Pio that he used during masses, a cross of his wounds, a lock of his hair. We have then a white glove of St. Pio, which is very unique. Padre Pio is known to have wore up to 2 brown fingerless gloves per day. But what many people don't know, that during evening hours when he was sleeping, doctors impose him to have white gloves so that they can keep track about the blood loss. And it was showing more than a brown gloves.
Sure.
And a piece of Padre Pio's habit. Those that are here today, they were in San Francisco, they will be in St. Augustine, in Florida, and we have another 20 venerations all over the country. And still also honor some veneration outside the country, like we have been last year, Brazil, Peru, North Island, and a few others. And we try tendentially to give this opportunity to as many as Dutches as possible.
So when it comes to Padre Pio, what are some things that you think that people should know about him? We did an episode recently on kind of the life and history, but you've been much closer to Pio than most people have. What do you have to say about the man?
Well, I guess the St. Pio Foundation became now, with certain humility and modesty, but I can say became almost an institution if we rely that it's not only that people approached the St. Pio Foundation with the fact that we have this main mission of bringing the relics of St. Pio, because 96% of those who have been approached by the relics, so we're talking more than 1.5 million in the span of 6 years, never flew, never will have the possibility to go to visit Padre Pio's places. So therefore, you have, I call that a spiritual encounter. That's as close as physically they will get to St. Pio. But also now we have 365 letters written by St. Pio to his spiritual children. And we translated and copyrighted them in 5 different languages. And we made them available free of charge because faithful wants to know how Padre Pio would have addressed an issue that I have in my family, how he would have advised me otherwise. So this letter gives you an insight about St. Pio inside. So now you have the relics, the spirituality. Then you have the letters, the insight. Then we have also the photographs. We have been trusted. Another great achievement was to convince Padre Pio's photographer, Elias Luto, which is 93 years old today, still alive, to entrust us with 100 photographs of St. Pio, authentic photographs of St. Pio that we make available for public veneration, or we even launched an initiative from the Vatican in 2024 on the 10th anniversary of St. Pio's Foundation, where people can go on the special webpage and download that free of charge. 10 high-resolution pictures of St. Pio, kind of replicate what you find in Italy from Rome south. Every shop, every butchery, every supermarket, there is a picture of St. Pio. I will say. The song of St. Pio, that for certain reason appeared on my desk, and then with what I won now, the Grammy from the Catholic Music this past July. And last, probably what I consider to be the most important project for me, because putting together a docudrama on the life of St. Pio with EWTN, with major actors like Joe Mantegna, Andy Garcia being voice narrators of both the English and the Spanish version, has been a great challenge. But the docudrama today is the most important international docudrama about St. Pio.
When people approach Padre Pio, what sort of miracles are associated with him, and what sort of issues can people bring to him and kind of ask for his intercession on?
It is great that you asked me this question, Nicholas. For me, it was a healing mostly, although it unfolded to we believe, with the intercession for our son Bert, Sebastian. But for many, it's healing for a disease they have, I ask all of them. I suggested when they approach me and ask for advice. Now, we always know that we need to pray, especially not for us ourselves much, but for those who we know that needs healings. But believe me, the sphere that goes from the mental healing, physical healing, to people who are looking to get pregnant and they are struggling and they have found St. Pius. I have many cases also very, very close. So it's really, sometimes I make a little joke, Padre Pio is a super saint in all facts. It's so contemporary, and he has been during his life and still after he passed away. Now this is the 57th anniversary since he passed away. We have seen a plethora of miraculous events that people have witnesses and still continue to witness in today's world. That is there a formula? No. I always, like everybody will say, we always say that Padre Pio himself reminds us the miracle is granted by God. He just can intercede for us.
Being so close to these relics has to remind you of God's power and God's mercy. How has this influenced your prayer life, your faith life?
I am definitely a different man that I was many years ago when I came. I'm responsible and I feel the pressure at the same time to carry on a legacy of St. Pio of this kind, because, for instance, I imagine when we will be leaving the relics to another diocese, many will be affected because they have had an opportunity they would have not have otherwise. And the fate happened because now I give a different sense in everything's happened in my life. I lost both parents for cancer, for instance, and they call me a fatalist. I always say, but I like to say that, no, if anything's happened tomorrow to me, and even if God's called me, I'm happy for the life I conducted, just because I found spiritual nutriment through the St. Pio Foundation on having bringing so much hope and healings to so many people, and it's not my merit. When I started, I had no vision where to go. The vision came to me, and I believe all the time when I pray St. Pio, make me an instrument of what you want me to be. If you don't believe I deserve the foundation to be carry on, please stop us. Eventually, he support us to grow.
We have this little parish here in Missoula, Montana, and as you were saying, you travel all over the world with these relics. You know Father Conroy, correct? That's how you were able to come here?
Absolutely. I like to say that I'm honored to be his friend.
How do you know him?
Father Pat is a very humble human being. In 2015, when he was the chaplain of U.S. House of Representatives, I approached him, and I was looking forward to have priests of high profile, monsignors or priests or excellencies like bishops and archbishops who could be advocates of the St. Pio Foundation. When I met Father Pat, he didn't know much about Padre Pio. The first meeting was, I think, as great as it could be, and immediately after he says, with the certain precautions, he would have accepted the role and tried to support us the best way we can. Now, as you know, Father Pat is a good guitarist and musician, and being a tenor, he didn't get along for us to get along, and he attended many events. We honor him with the Adili Award, which is our most prestigious award. So far that Andrea Bocelli received the same award, just for you to know. So we honored Father Pat the same way, and he has been an outstanding supporter as long as he was at the U.S. House of Representatives, and even afterwards. So we've been in touch and communicating all the time. I know he was in Spokane, and he informed me that he was in this parish, and I remember then he approached me, Luciano, what we need to do to get the relics here. And for me, it's really a friend who has given so much to the St. Pio Foundation. I told my team, anything Father Pat would like to do, please run from me, because I would like to make the steps much easier than it is. And I don't cover personally. I don't travel with the relics anymore. We have a supervisor, Richard, the former chief police, who does that. But I told Richard that I would have loved to cover this parish myself. And of course, here I am.
Have you had a chance to take a look inside the parish yet?
It's beautiful.
Oh, I absolutely love it in there. You've performed at a lot of different venues, like you said, for the UN. You've been all over the place as being an operatic tenor. Just as a curiosity, have you really enjoyed one venue over another? Like, do you have a favorite venue that you've performed at?
I think the best was being Carnegie Hall. December 14, I performed Carnegie 4 times. The second time, this past December, I opened a major concert. I was there at the same stage where from Pavarotti, Caruso, Bocelli, and others have been. The acoustic was amazing. I mean, you could have just whispered a sound, and the acoustic was something unbelievable. And then I always say that when you sing for faith, to go back to the charity, I feel myself always, to differentiate when you sing for money, for business, because you need to, that's just my profession. But when you sing for a cause, there is a thrilling experience, a part of me that breathes in my singing. And that's, I believe, that the reason why in the song of St. Pio, despite having been, I always felt unworthy to sing it. The many famous singers I know and I approach, they always love it. For certain reason, the time was not right. And for me, it was not just to listen. All my friends who always told me, Luciano, knowing how you sing, this is the song for you. Don't let anybody else sing.
I will be singing along with you tomorrow. I'm going to be honored to do so because we're going to be performing it for the Mass tomorrow.
I was told by music director, I'm pleased. I know he has put lots of efforts like with all of you. And officially, this will be the first time I would have performed the song since I won the award at the Catholic Music Award at the Vatican. And the first I performed in America. And I guess all that unfolded in a place when you understand I was meant to be here. I was meant for St. Pio to be here. That's why it's the importance of the momentum, because Father Pat was here and invited us. Certain things unfold, like the mystery of faith. You don't know why certain things happen, but indeed happen. And I'm very thrilled that the Song of St. Pio will be performed here for the first time. I have several others venue, like today I received an invitation from the Columbus Citizen Foundation, which hosts the Columbus Parade and does on the CBS nationwide. So we will be performing the song nationwide on October 13, I guess. But here we are in Missoula, so I hope we'll make history tomorrow.
I am honored to be able to be up there and make some history with you. I did notice that it had been translated into English, and as somebody with a clumsy American tongue, I do somewhat appreciate that so that we don't have to slaughter your beautiful, beautiful language.
It was a challenge for me because we translated in 5 languages. As determined I was to make this song. Now, there are many songs dedicated to St. Pio. When I say this is the most official, it is because it is the most official. The story goes that Padre Pio passed away September 23rd, 1968. 2 days after, the friars asked this composer from Foggia, nearby, a spiritual child of St. Pio, a very prominent composer, to compose music. This man, for 2 months, dedicated his life. There is a recording. There is a very famous Italian singer named Luciano that performed the LP and donated to the Shrine of St. Pio. As close as he was, he never deposited the right. He didn't want to make money from it. So this was officially requested. There are lots of paper that validates this. From 2021, just appeared on my desk. I don't remember how. For me, it was just I dropped my jaw. It was like go back in the 1960s with Italian melodies. And I thought, this is so beautiful. I need to do something. Well, don't tell me how. I was able, through journalist friends of mine, to reach out to the family, ask permission. The family met in front of the notary, and they were so happy. They signed the agreement, so they released the full song in my hand to do whatever I felt it was appropriate to do. And that's what I was informed about the Catholic Music Award, and I registered in 5 languages. Now, I never spoke anything else besides English and Italian. What I've done, I did Spanish, French, and Portuguese. Friends that spoke well the language were recording it, and I was recording phrase by phrase, put in my ear, okay, this is here. I record my phrase, and then listen to my on the other side. But indeed, the voices are good. I mean, everybody who's listening to the 5 version, they appreciate the quality, and I wanted for them to be known in America especially. It was important that an English version was out there.
No, and like I said, we appreciate it, if only because we want to make it sound good too. And
better than me, for sure.
Oh, I doubt that, sir, but I am looking forward to seeing you there tomorrow. What should folks know Is there anything kind of additional about Padre Pio himself or about the overall foundation that you think is really important for people to know?
Sure. I think what people need to look for St. Pio when they come, it's besides his stigmata. The goal, I rarely advertise it on the St. Pio Foundation website, but the mission, when I say is promote his legacy and charisma, is just see behind the stigmatist. I know very well that the relics attracts faithful, and that's important. But as I mentioned, the letters, the photographs, and everything else gets a close insight about St. Pio. If you go inside the life of St. Pio, all you really to know, and if you see that through the docudrama, is a very humble priest that all wanted to do every day is to pray. We know that he was saying dozens of rosaries per day, and saving souls, and confess. So all this comes in a place where who was really Padre Pio? Was that saint? Yes, he was a saint, but was also somebody that was going to be, it was be irascible. If you go in the church at 4:30 a.m., there was hundreds of women outside waiting for the door to open. And if you ran inside the church because you want to go in the first few pew where Padre Pio would pass, he was yelling at them. For sure, remember, this is the Church of God. You cannot do this. So it's not everything's immaculate. People believe that a saint never loses his temper. Well, sometime he did. Also, when, we was passing by the corridor and he was pulled right and left, the people just taking pieces of his habit or piece of his bandage, how would you react sometime? You can lose sometime your own temper for that. But indeed, there was St. Pio, and as he humbly was, sometimes we have on records that sometimes he could not perform miracles. And he said that he even tell people, do you think if I can ask for God to healing me when Padre Pio had tumor? Would do this so the humility of the man is something that people should be attracted to, especially in this era where people, I believe, they try to not look up at ways of bear their suffering. In this era, if we see anything we have, oh my God, I'm suffering, I have a headache, so I need to find some things, I need to pray God because my head is not moving well. And he will help you in understanding how to bear your sufferings and channel them in a way that can be, maybe some people will believe that I'm crazy, but they are blessings. Blessing that helps you to learn to heal yourself and to cope with the sufferings, learning how to cope them well, to live well.
It's very interesting that you bring up the subject of a hand, because I actually have a hand that doesn't move very well. So that's rather serendipitous.
You can still pray, but again, you will find more reward in knowing, probably, especially if there's some things that cannot be completely cured. A miracle, we always want a miracle to happen, but to know how to bear those little challenges we have in life, it's always the greatest desire. I guess I say I lost both parents for cancer, and I always told my son Sebastian, I hope I will be not facing those challenges, but maybe not. Of course, the medicine helps me preventing that to happen. But if that happens, I can only look at those ways Padre Pio would have helped me to carry on the suffering that way.
You had mentioned earlier that people have borne witness to some miraculous occurrences because of being in the presence of these relics of Padre Pio. Do you mind telling us a little bit about some of those?
Oh, there are many. I have had a couple from Pennsylvania that he was giving 4 months of life, and he resisted for 6 years. And they've been in touch with us many times. But what was important for me, if I can say, Nicholas, is the first. I believe I kept the email. 2017, when we brought the relics of St. Pio for the first time around the country, there was this lady in Chicago. It was a huge crowd, 1,000 and 1,000 people. She recounted me the story. There was line outside the church. This woman with the young children stops, says, why so many people? People were indicating her, the relics of Pio inside the church is very important. You should go and attend. She put herself in line and arrived her time, and she waited for more than 1 hour, probably, as long the line were, to venerate the relics. So touching must have been the experience for her, that she called her mother. And the two were not communicating for more than 15 years. Wow. She had left the church. The mother was crying. I mean, she was, remember when I read the email, My daughter got back to church because of St. Pio, and she called me after 15 years, and we have been reuniting like never. Now that is a miracle you have not prayed for, but came to you. Neither the mother, neither the daughter prayed for that miracle. She felt transformed at the presence of St. Pio. As I say, there is no magic word. There is when they ask me, I always say, pray with intensity, pray the way you wish that to pray, but remember, pray with the fact that you always know it's in God's will. That's what Padre Pio's always wanted. He's the biggest intercessor you can have, and having him closer to you definitely is important, to the extent that sometimes even when the miracle cannot be performed, it helps you to bear those sufferings in that way. So that is a miracle that I believe I remember, the miracle of faith of being a family reuniting where nobody prayed for it, and we became part of that family.
And he was a very humble man because he was a stigmatic. He didn't go around saying, "Hey, look at my stigmata."
Absolutely
look at
no.
me.
He actually he didn't want them, the stigmata. And as the story goes, when he was in Pietrelcina, he received the first sign. Then the sign, he asked Jesus, we wrote in the letter to his spiritual director, he asked Jesus for those stigmata to be removed. He was ashamed to show them. He said, "Let me bear the suffering, not the sign." Probably Jesus had a different opinion. And then when the sign became more prominent, and that's what he got in trouble with the church, as you know, the persecution, because people inside the Vatican were not believing they were honest, but they were honest. And as I say, even the miracle of faith, I was talking with Father Paddy yesterday, how do you proclaim the miracle of faith in my life? Well, you see, not only we were told by many doctors we were becoming parents and we have a child. We were told that we were going to have a child and nothing more after. Now, 10 years, my son is almost 10 years older. It's not that we wanted to have another child. It didn't come. When Padre Pio passed away, 2 weeks before, his hands and feet were healing. When he passed away, doctors were to analyze his feet and hands. The verdict was that he has the skin of a newborn, as immaculate his skin was. It's impossible for somebody that were such a deep wound of 50 years to have that skin. And that's the miracle of faith, when you realize what you have experienced with St. Pio was really a miracle man.
Well, especially because one of the early accusations against him, because he was in World War I, and it was something that some of the soldiers did, there were some suspicions that he had used carbolic acid or something like that to do those burnings. But somebody who had been burning themselves with carbolic acid for 50 years, it definitely would have affected the flesh.
It would have affected the flesh, it would have a marked, and then that's how things happen because, good or bad, they say it's good for people to talk about. So, and there are a lot of people that were dismantled or they were criticized about St. Pio because the way he actually treated them. If you were going to confess with St. Pio, and he was, one of his virtues was that he was able to see you like an open book and tell you, did you tell me all the sins you did? No. And then he was telling, you did this, and this. And the people were saying, go away. He was chasing them away, come when you really repented. Some of them were so disappointed of the humiliation they had. They came back with all this story. Those who repented well, oh my Lord, there was a lesson for them to repent. Then, Father Agostino Gemelli came. We came with the false inquisition the first time. He was not officially sent by the Vatican. The second time he was. And then, as always happened, there is envy that brought Padre Pio to be investigated. But with humility, he always accepted whatever the church told him to do.
There was one of the stories I read that he wasn't necessarily a huge fan of Vatican II, but because he had taken a vow of obedience, he said, well, this is what the church has decided.
That's correct. He always accepted any restrictions they imposed on him, whatever he likes things or not. He was the most obedient. To see St. Pio's, everything he suffered, sometimes not to be able to say Mass in front of people, it's the most you can challenge a priest, I guess, and still being in obedience. And he had millions of followers all over the world. So there were groups and mega groups that were able to fight with him. Many times he sent letters to the Pope, dissociate himself. asking them to please obey to what the Pope is asking me to do, or the Inquisition asking me to do. Do not interfere. So we have those who wanted to protect him, but Padre Pio had not only to submit himself to the wish of his superior, but also tell his fan and devotees to be quiet. So it's a double role he had there.
That sounds like a heck of a balancing act.
Yes.
You had mentioned that he had the ability to read souls. Even those of us who are repentant amongst the faithful, that must have been very daunting to go up against.
It is. I mean, my most challenging experience has been with Monsignor Pierino. As I mentioned to you, his closest friend. I confessed twice. The second time was a revealing experience with me, although Don Pierino was very kind towards me. And having forgotten, I believe, to say some things, not important much, but it was important for that I didn't say it. I didn't say because I forgot. How did he knew about it? I have no idea. But Don Pierino was indeed carrying along the spirituality of St. Pio. So imagine where you would have gone to Padre Pio and sometimes you have to take you need to reserve months in advance for you to go and actually being confessed by St. Pio. But it goes back to the fact that we always need to recognize that in front of a ministry, in front of a priest, for those who believe in a Catholic, no, you recognize, you submit your sins in front of God. And what happened if we had more Padre Pios today? Sometimes I like to say we even have relics and we encourage pastors, you can do a confessional site, like you can invite actually other priests and having a confessional with the relics so people might get more inspired to be truthful and understanding. And also, Padre Pio was a strongly believer that we always have a second chances, as many as we want, as long as we not only recognize our sins, but we do our best not to repeat them. We know that sometimes we repeat the mistakes. We need to do our best not to do it, not to undermine that.
Well, it kind of takes away the power of confession if when we walk out, we're like, well, I'm just going to go do that again anyways.
That's correct.
So if we're looking at the life of St. Pio, and we find that he is worth emulating, which he is, how can one of the faithful, just a normal Catholic, kind of start on that process of trying to be a little bit more like he would have expected us to be?
I guess like as a lay person myself, I devoted part of my life not only on giving to support charity through my singing, but also through the St. Pio Foundation or another foundation I founded called the People of Hope, which with my son Sebastian, we support certain charitable initiatives that we find to be meaningful, to help those in need, to find always a way that in kindness, compassion, but also to remind us again, look at St. Pio. I invite everybody, take these 365 letters, one per day. We even have the book, The Real St. Pio. The book we made available only because many were asking if we were going to print 200 pages, it will cost us more than buying a book, $20. So on our website, you find the PDF free of charge and a book just for you, so you spend less money. But for me, it was important. Again, it's a road to sainthood. Each of us has bad days. Sometimes I step on the wrong foot, and also I need to remember a picture I have in my house on Padre Pio smiling. He has the most beautiful smile, and I think if he could smile, how could I not?
Well, especially with a lot of the struggles that he went through.
Yes,
in his life.
and the pain that he had, morning to evening, and those few hours he was able to rest.
Well, and he was a fairly sickly person when he was younger too, so it wasn't just the stigmata.
Absolutely. Since before he became a priest, he had difficulty in breathing, and that's why his superior sent in the end to San Giovanni Rotondo, because he's on the top of a mountain.
Much like here in Montana.
Yes, definitely. They may just say that. There may be a case.
We're kind of coming to the end of our time here, but is there anything else that you want to say before we break for the day?
My real hope is that Missoula in Montana will unite in spirit with the St. Pio Foundation as we are trying to build more chapels. Chapels means that places where inside parishes people can have a display with one of the relics of St. Pio. I really hope this will become a beacon of light and hope and continue that charisma of St. Pio now, and then more friends like Father Pat will join us, and to let people know this is really a wonderful experience you are having through the relics, and you are being left with a relic that you can come up to. Just when you come close to St. Pio, you're reminded yourself, we are simple human beings, and with simplicity we are called to live our life. And when we exit the church, like when you leave a mass, that should be continuing in our business environment or in our family environment. It's a challenge for everybody. Judge less, put yourself in the shoes of the others, and being as generous as you can.
Well, Luciano, it's been a true pleasure to have you on the show, and I look forward to worshiping with you tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to. Thank you, Nikos, for having me.
Thank you for being with us today as we walk as pilgrims this road together. If you feel called to learn more, please consider checking out St. Francis Xavier or your local Catholic church. All are welcome into our community as God loves us all equally. If you are interested in supporting the Vox SFX podcast, please visit sfxmissoula.org/donate. Until next time, go forth in peace and be the light of Christ in someone's day.
By Jove, we've got